A new international glossary has been published. I'm here with the working group from the Valuation Professional Organizations, or VPOs, who came together to produce this glossary for the benefit of the global business valuation profession. We will discuss this collaboration, what it involved, and why it is important. Let's start with the basics. Why did you put together this glossary? What are the benefits of using this glossary? There was a similar business valuation glossary in existence dated 2001. Why publish a new glossary now?
Hello, we are so thrilled to be here to announce this publication, which has been in development for some time. Now, as you know, more and more professionals are operating across markets and within markets today. The glossary that our working group has developed is intended to create more consistency in business valuation around the world. The benefit of this international glossary is to provide a common understanding of technical terms used within the business valuation profession and its various sub-practice areas, as well as for those operating in different markets. Let me back up a bit. The impetus for this project came from an IBSC CEO's meeting in the summer of 2019, following discussions on opportunities for how to harmonize and collaborate practices related to business valuation. This working group of VPOs was formed that year and started by looking at the international glossary that was in existence already and began scoping out what to do. We recognized very quickly that an update would be beneficial, particularly as there was strong appetite to have greater harmonization in the BV profession. We also recognized that in the last 20 years, new terms had since gained traction and become more popular in the market and in practice, particularly with the introduction of fair value in IFRS and US GAAP, and the increasing importance of intangible asset valuation. The profession has developed and progressed in the last 2 decades, so it made sense to harmonize our terminology. We saw a real benefit to producing a new internationally agreed document, one that was current and reflected well-known and accepted terms, including some that had been omitted from previous glossaries, as well as intangible asset valuation terminology.
We recognize that this process was not going to be easy because the 2001 glossary was used differently by different VPOs. In some cases, they were used part of standards and others as guidance and various other means. We feel the new glossary will be fresh, current, helpful resource for BB practitioner, taking the profession one step closer to harmonization in a collaborative and transparent way. We believe we've achieved this, producing a resource for BB terminology that is relevant and helpful in today's environment, both for the valuation practitioners and users of valuation services. We hope this document helps drive consistent use of certain terms of VPO, helping reducing some of the diversity in terminology used in practice, so that we can all speak the same language, further strengthening the BB profession in general.
We named the new glossary the International Valuation Glossary, Business Valuation, because we wanted to set the stage for perhaps the publication of other international glossaries for other specialisms or disciplines, such as real estate, where there is also a market need for consistently understood terminology. This glossary updates the International Glossary of Business Valuation Terms, originally published in 2001. Actually, the working group members intend to replace the 2001 glossary with this document in various forms as permitted by their governance structures. All intend to adopt this document in some form.
Who worked on this new glossary?
The working group was comprised of representatives from CBV Institute, ASA, RICS, Taqiyyim, and IVSC. Members of the working group included individuals with experience in professional practice and standard setting, as well as active valuation practitioners. Also, many other organizations were consulted and their input sought throughout the process. For example, we included representatives from the Appraisal Foundation, NACFA, IIBV, IVAS, and IVSC, as we tried to build consensus with our approach. Additionally, it was important for us to have the IVSC as an active participant and observer, given the importance of the IVSC as the global standard setter for valuation and our VPO's strong support of the IVSC in general as members and sponsors.
What authority does the glossary have?
We do not intend the glossary to be authoritative. Rather, it's intended to be a helpful tool and a precursor to a global harmonization of terms. We recognize that many of the technical terms used in BV cross over into other disciplines such as finance, economics, etc., and are not strictly limited to BV. Many technical terms are defined by IFRS or FASB standards. Some terms even have entire publications dedicated to a more thorough analysis and application. This glossary defines the terms that we believe are critical to be defined, terms that have a specific meaning in the practice of business valuation. And we also attempted to stay away from how-to or instructional definitions.
Also, it was worth noting that if any term in this glossary conflicts with published governmental, judicial, or accounting authority, precedence should be given to the use and interpretation of terms as they appear in applicable published authoritative guidance, given the purpose of the valuation.
Who is the new glossary meant for?
The glossary is intended for business valuation professionals and other stakeholders and users of business valuation services. Users might include attorneys, accountants, or other advisors to businesses and business users. We hope the glossary becomes widely used by all VPOs and in the marketplace broadly.
What type of consultation did you do? What feedback did you receive and from whom? And how long has the work on this project been ongoing?
The working group published a draft version of the glossary in December 2020 via an invitation to comment that went to members of all the VPOs represented by the working group. Close to 40 comment letters were received. Comments came from individual valuation professionals, valuation firms, both large and small, and valuation professional organizations from around the world. The comments generally fell under the three following buckets: improvements to the definition of specific terms, arguments for removing specific terms, and requests that the group consider related terms for inclusion.
These comments were addressed in detail by the working group throughout early 2021, following which the working group resought another round of comments from those individuals and organisations who had provided the most substantial and detailed feedback. This second round of fatal flaw reviews were conducted in July, and further revisions and improvements were made to the glossary as a result. This final version represents an ongoing and active international effort that has spanned over 2 years. The working group expects to revisit the glossary periodically and update it as needed, bringing in input from additional organisations beyond those listed in the glossary to promote ever wider use of the document.
What is the nature of the changes from the old glossary?
So the new glossary contains more technical terms and methodologies, some of which have emerged since the previous document was published in 2001. We view this new glossary as more of an update with modernizations. To give you an example of terms that have been added, we included terms such as fair value and enterprise value, which did not appear in the original glossary. Terms like attrition and contributory assets are now widely used in the valuation of intangible assets, and so we've included some of those terms. And we've added a few new terms that are becoming increasingly relevant to the profession, such as ESG, or environmental, social, and governance factors. And we also revised some existing terms to ensure consistency and alignment with modern practice.
In total, the number of terms increased by a net of 24 terms. Some terms were dropped as they were too specialized, redundant, or already defined in accounting finance, and statistical texts. Another different approach is that this glossary does not contain any jurisdictional specific terms. The working group decided not to note jurisdictional differences because the ultimate goal was the international harmonization.
What languages will the glossary be available in?
The working group is publishing the glossary in English, French, and Arabic. Any other translations done by other VPOs or users are encouraged to refer to the original English version.
Are your organizations adopting the new glossary?
Adoption means many different things. We all intend to publish and use this document, although how we get there may be different. Each of the 4 VPOs will adopt and publish the new glossary as a practice aid or guidance for their members. IVS is supportive of it and supportive of harmonization, but the IVS defines only terms used within the international valuation standards. We encourage other organizations to use and reference the glossary in any way they see fit.
Thank you for your leadership on this project, and thank you all for listening in.